Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are well. And today we are going to complete the Nike Run Club project. I know it has been a long time since we have started this project, but at the start we made a promise to make a production level application, right? So it takes a lot of time since we have to make the database, the UI, and make it to the perfect level, right? So it takes a lot of time, but today is going to be the last video of this project. In this video we will add two things. The first one is the Redux Thunk package. This package will help us to send asynchronous calls from our Redux store. The second thing is to make the Firebase Realtime database. This database will help us to store our users' data and retrieve it whenever our user signs in to our application. So this is going to be one hell of a informative video. I hope you all enjoy it. Also, I have one tiny favor from you guys. I have added a link to a survey for this project and for this channel actually. I want to grow this channel according to you guys, my subscribers, my followers, and React Native obviously. So I want you guys to tell me from this survey how you want this channel to grow. What all things you think that can improve the channel and your knowledge and your projects actually. I hope you can fill this form and help me in this and help me grow this channel as much as I can in the coming years. So this is one favor I am asking you to do. And now let us get back to this video. Alright guys, let us move ahead with our application. So as you remember that we had done a lot of work in our pause screen in the last video. Now only one task is left, that adding a unique ID to each run. So I remember that in our last video I told you that we can just give index value to as parameters to the summary screen, but that won't work because if you see our whenever we are dispatching and navigating to the news screen together at the same time simultaneously. So for example, right now what is happening is the dispatching of the run of this when we are saving this run into a Redux and into our database also. So right now we are focusing on Redux. So when we are saving it in our Redux, so it for example it takes 10 seconds to save it over there, but our navigation when we are moving to a new screen towards the summary screen, it takes less than 10 seconds. And when I'm trying to get the data of a element in the array which is not even present, which is not has been stored in that array, then our app crashes. So that is why I won't be going ahead with that method. I will be going with the same method that we were going with in our UI, that is giving day, time of day, kilometer, average pace. We will also give time, average pace, calorie, and total kilometers. Alright, so that is how we will be doing it. And also we will have a unique ID, as you remember, like we had in our dummy data also, we had a unique ID for each run, right? So we need to have a unique ID for each run in our Redux and in our database also. So I have thought of one way like how we can have a unique ID. So I thought of one way in which we can have a unique ID, that is const ID, that is equal to new date, and convert this new date to ISO string and just add our user's name. Right now I'm just giving equal for static purposes since we can't have the user dynamically currently in a screen. So this is how we will have a unique string, unique ID for our each run. So over here you can see that we can have a unique ID for each run. So this is how an ISO string looks like, and at the end I'm just adding the user's name. So this becomes unique for each run. Alright, so let us go ahead. And now we will also, I will just remove average pace because we will not need it, and I will have our current run and current time, that is dynamic, getting the distance and time of that particular run only. and I have changed total kilometers. This was before it was total kilometers. Now I've changed total kilometer ran, because that is how we had done in our dummy data, like this. So this is how we will do it. Since it is quite misleading, like I have total kilometer ran over here, but total kilometer in the summary screen. So we will fix this right away. We should have same names. Alright, so this was everything for our pause screen. Now it is completely done. Alright, so I will just remove this, and we will now move on to our summary screen. Alright, now we are in our summary screen. So we are getting our values as params from our pause page right now. So these are the params. These are the params. Alright, so let us see where we are using all of this. First of all, let us change total kilometers to total kilometer ran, and not changing this value and changing this value everywhere. Cool. I did that by just select that particular variable and then control F2. Then you can select every place where this variable has been written and just paste. Or let this is done. First things, total kilometer ran is done. Now first thing that what we want to do is adding presentation functions to our kilometers, time and average pace, like we had done in our pause screen. If I think you remember all of this, like for time it was like this, kilometers like this. Let us do that. Right, so going to a kilometer, giving it dot to fixed 1. Right, I will just copy for our time, give it props dot time, remove this. Next we have our pace. Yeah, average pace is over here. I will just copy that also. Pace, props, cool. Props dot, it will be kilometers, I think, not distance. Yeah, kilometer. Let us change the distance only. Distance. That is much better. Distance is much better. You can change that also in that I've just changed the variable name or the property name to distance instead of kilometers. Let's copy this and paste it wherever kilometer has been used. Kilometer. Yep, kilometer. Yeah, and this is all right. I'm just checking wherever the kilometer has been used. Have I changed that or not? Yeah, this is the only place. Alright, so let us check. I will just start a run and pause this. Then I will just save this run. Obviously something broke. Let us see what broke. Oh, I didn't import these functions. Calculate. Yeah, it should work now. Props.kilometer.fix. What is this? Let me just refresh. Saving that. Cool. Something broke. Activity. Alright, so this is we'll check this out later. Let me just dismiss this right now. I have made some changes to the activity card, that is why it is showing some error to us. Well, this will work. Now let us do one thing before going on to the second part. Let us make changes to our activity screen. So in our activity screen, what we want to do is, so all of this will work. No doubt about that. We have not done anything crazy in our summary screen right now. I will show you what error is coming in our activity screen. So what we want to do in activity screen is that whenever the first time our app loads, we will take all the data of that particular user from the database, right? So we will take all the previous runs that he has ran, all the total kilometer he has ran. So we will take all of that data and store it to a Redux array over here, the previous runs array. We will fill this up as soon as the person logs in into our application. All right, so when the person logs in, so this previous run array will be filled with all the runs that the person has ran. So in our Redux, in our activity screen, what we are doing is we are making use of the dummy data. We are making use of this dummy data. Now we want to make use of a Redux array. So how we can make use of Redux array, that is the previous runs array, how we can make use of this this array to show all the runs that a person has ran. So now we will see how we can do that in our activity screen. Alright guys, so now we are in our activity screen. So right now, as you can see, we are taking the data from a dummy data, right? This is the data that we are taking. But now since we have reducer and our Redux function hooks, we can make use of use selector to get all the data from our Redux. So we have state, then we have state dot previous runs. Let me just check the name. All right, cool. So we have data and we can remove this import. All right, so now we are taking data from over here and not from that. So we are taking data dynamically, and since we had changed this kilometer to distance, so let us also change that over here. It will be this distance, and we can just remove the average base because that is not there anymore, and we can give it total kilometer ran to our activity card. Saving this. All right, we have done the first part. Now let us move on to our second part, where we have to change the presentation function in our activity card, and also few things that we have to change since we have changed kilometer to distance and remove the average pace. So let us go there now. All right, now that we are in our activity card, let me just also open our activity screen. All right, so now that we are not getting any props.kilometer, it is distance everywhere. So distance, average pace is not there anymore, and total kilometer is now total kilometer ran. Yeah, done. Next, we have to just change the presentation like we did in our summary screen. So let me just take all of that. Activity dot distance dot to fixed one, average pace, average pace, and let me just paste it over here. And then we have time. Cool. Okay, let me just import all of this also. and remove this importing. Cool. All right, this is done. Let us just refresh our application once again. Now that we are refreshing it, we should, and we've added Redux to our activity screen, we should not see any run in our activity. Let us see if it works. Yep. So we are not seeing any runs in our activity. Now let us start a run. Let us save it as soon as it is started. The values are showing correctly. Let us save this. Cool. Our summary page is also working fine. Going back, and now we should see one more run. Hopefully it works, and yes, it works good. So we are seeing a dynamic run that has been added to our Redux, and you can also say to our DB, which will happen as soon as we do that. This is cool. This is nice. We have done this. Now only one thing is left. All right. Also, we can open it, and it is showing Thursday evening run. This is nice. So now that we have added Redux to our whole application, now we need to add the database. So before going ahead and adding Firebase as a database, we need to make sure that we can send any asynchronous calls, so the API calls from our application to the Firebase database. So, and we also need to make use of Redux store when we are or Redux action whenever we are sending any API call. So all the API calls will come under this part. So for that, we need to have a middleware which will help us to send these API calls to the database. So for that, we will make use of Redux Thunk. I've added the link to the documentation. What does Redux Thunk do? So it is a middleware for Redux, allows writing functions with logic inside that can interact with Redux store. Right now, if I just add any asynchronous call or API call over here, it will not work, and the Redux will say that you need to return a object rather than a function. So Redux Thunk helps us to optimize our application by helping us to make use of the Redux store, and also able us to send API calls to our database. So for that, we need to make use of Redux Thunk. So just go ahead and install Redux Thunk with this command. I've already done that, so I can show that to you. The Redux Thunk is over here. Right. Once you have done that, go to your app.js file. Alright, over here where we have imported create store, import apply middleware. Since Redux Thunk is a middleware, we will apply it over there, add it over there, and then importing Redux Thunk from Redux Thunk. I will just put this over here, and I will also bring this down over here. All right, saving that. So in a create store, once we have reduced, so we will also have we will have apply middleware, and inside of that you will add Redux Thunk. All right, so now we have added Redux Thunk over here in the app.js file. Now going to our actions index.js file. Over here is the main verb of our Redux Thunk. So what we need to do is we need to create a function which will have dispatch as a variable, and this dispatch will return all of the actions that was getting returned over here. So we'll just take this, delete this, paste it over here. All right, now we have added Redux Thunk to our application. Once for testing it, we will just make use of a dummy that is dummy API JSON placeholder. We'll just take that to see if that works for us. I will just copy this and paste it over here. Alright, and let's just start our application. Alright guys, so our application is up and running. So now let us see if we are able to see this console of whenever we are hitting the JSON placeholder. So I will just open the console, press start, pause, and I'm saving the run. Alright, so we got this in few seconds, I think. So we got a return. So we are able to send API calls from our save run action function, right? So this works fine. So our Redux Thunk is working fine now. So we are going to make use of fetch a functionality to send our data to the Firebase database. Alright, so this is the Firebase real-time database that we will be using. You can create any project using Firebase. I think I will just show you. So you can go to add project, name any project that you want. For example, project, continue, any default account. I'm just telling you how to create a Firebase project and reach to this page. Let me just let this happen. Alright, so our project is ready. Continue. Alright, so this is our project. Go to the real-time database over here. In the real-time database, you will have to create a database. Use the default location. Press next. Press start in test mode. In this, there will be no rules for read and write. In logged mode, there will be a particular rule that you will have to give to some user that you can only write, or this person can only read the data. Right now, since we are just learning, I'm going in test mode. This will take few seconds, and once this is done, you will reach to this page. All right, so I will just so you are in the same page as I am. All right, so this is the URL that we are going to make use of. On this URL, we are going to send post request, get request, and update and put request also. Like we are updating any data. So for example, we have to update the total kilometers data. So we can do that by using this URL. So I have just copied this, and I will make, while we are understanding the logic, like how we want the whole data to be structured, we are going to make use of Postman. So I'm going to make use of Postman. For example, I've just made use of users. So I will just showcase one thing to you. So for example, this is the database URL that I have over here. Users is one column, or you can think of it like one brick, and one parent, and inside of that there will be users is one parent, and inside of that there will be many other children. For example, nbagecha@gmail is one children. So I'm posting some data to that. So I will send a request. Once I send the request, I'm getting the 200 OK response. So that means our request was correct, and it has come with 200 OK response. The request was executed perfectly, and it returns us an ID. This ID will be the same ID that is shown in the database also. So going back now, as you can see, before this there was nothing. So users is the parent. Inside of users is a child called nbagecha@gmail, and that child has one run. So each run has been given some different IDs over here, right? So we can see it like this also. All right, so this is the way that we are going to structure it. So now let us understand how we are going to structure our data and how we will be getting the data from this database and how we will make use of the Postman code. So I will just showcase that to you also. We can, so in the Postman you can go to this symbol code, and inside of this go to fetch. So fetch will be somewhere, fetch. I can't seem to see that. Yeah, JavaScript fetch. So this is the same code that we are going to make use of in our React Native application. Alright guys, so I have thought of one way where we can save our runs to the database. So now we will check that out. So now that this is working, we will remove all of this. We want to store all of this data, that is day, time of day, distance, time and calories. We want only 5 of this data. The total kilometer ran or the total kilometers the person has run will be calculated on the user side only. We will not save those things in the database. We will only save day, time of day, distance, time and calories to the database. So let us see how we can do this. So we will have, first we will have a variable called a raw body. So this will, since we can only send stringified JSON stringified data through an API call, we will make first make that. So in the day we will have data.day, then we have time of day, it's comma data dot time of day, then we have distance. So this is the distance of each run that we are saving. So I'm only saving 5 things, so that, and rest of the things that we can calculate in the user level. Then we have time, so that is data dot time, and the last is data dot cal. Or this is the raw body. Now we will have our fetch statement. So we can have the fetch statement like fetch. Next we have a URL. So I will just take this URL from here, and inside of users I'm right now going with only one user, knuckle.json, and then we will have to add few values for the API call, that is method. So this is a post request. We need to set headers, so the headers will be, so the headers are content type is application / JSON, to make sure that the API knows that we are sending JSON data. And at the end we have body, so we will give raw body. Now we can make use of 2 ways so that we can see or catch any errors that occur during our application. So we can either make use of async await, or we can make use of dot then and dot catch. So I think I will make use of dot then currently, so that we can first see that our application is running fine or not. So we have dot then for text and followed by a dot then, which will print out or console.log our results, console.log result. And at the end we will have a catch statement to catch any errors if they occur. Alright, so console.log, console.error, let us do it, console.error and error. Cool. So this is done. So we have a raw body, we have our fetch API call. sending to our database in user and knuckle.json. So knuckle will be the child name over here. Then we have post request headers and the body. Then we have two then calls and a catch call at the end to catch any errors. So let us try this out. I'm going to start, pause the run. So it is 0 kilometers, 0 time, 0 pace, everything 0. And let's just save this. Alright, now this is not accurate currently, so let us go ahead. So as you can see, we have a knuckle child with a data for a particular run. So with calorie 0, it is Monday over here right now, distance 0, time 0, and it is evening. Alright, this looks good. And it is also accurate, just not the total kilometers part, but everything else is accurate over here also. Cool, this looks good to me that we have added the post request or saving our data to the database. That has been done. Now let us see how we can fetch the data from the user, from the database. Actually, how we can fetch the data of the user from the database and then showcase the respective runs, total kilometers, and every value, every information that we have for the particular user in our database. Now we will have a get request for that data for the user. Alright guys, so now that our post request is done, we will move forward to fetching the data from the database. So I will just open the Postman. So over here, as you can see, I have posted a get request for users and knuckle.json. Also, yes, I forgot to tell you one more thing, that anytime you want to get any data from the real-time database of Firebase, you need to add .json at the end. This is only for Firebase database and not anything else. It is just for that. Alright, so this is the URL of a database and the name of a parent or the parent folder and the user knuckle.json. So if once I press send, I'm getting all of this data from the database. As you can see, these are the different runs. Alright, not the same one. As you can see, there is different ID for each one of them. So this is the different runs for the user. Now we want to use this data and showcase these data whenever the person comes or opens our app, every time he wants to start a new run, right? So he wants to see all his previous data in the activity screen. So for that, we need to create a new screen or a new page, I would say. So in that will be the first placeholder. You can see it will be a placeholder where we will show the user that that we are getting your data from the database, or we are fetching your data from the database. So wait for 2 seconds or 1 second till the time we are fetching your data. So for that, we will have a new screen over here in our main stack. So you can give it like stack.screen, and the name will be, so let me just copy all of this. So since I need, yeah, so the name will be startup, and our initial route name will also be startup. And now you need to create a new screen for this, a new component for this. So going to our screens, over here I will add startup, and in this we will have index.js. Now going rnfe startup screen, and over here we will have we will say you fetching your data. All right, and with this we will also have an activity indicator. So the circle that will show that something is happening, and size will be large so that it is visible, and giving some stylings to this of flex 1 and justify content center align items center. All right, this is done. This is the startup screen. So let us just import it over here also. Startup screen. All right, this is the first screen that will show up. So in our startup screen, what we want to do is we want to get all of the data. So all of the data from the database. So we need to create or we need to start a new action. We need to push a new action. So going to our actions, going to a store action and index.js file, we will add a new action saying get user data like this, and there will be a new function of get user data. In this function we will have a API like we had in save run to database. So currently I've just added a function and added console.log so that we can see that we are able to hit this function from our startup screen. So for that we'll have dispatch const dispatch is equal to use dispatch from React Redux, and in a use effect we'll have one use effect. This use effect will occur only once this page is running. So, and we will also import all the actions from import star as actions like we have done before from store actions index. All right, and inside of this we will have dispatch actions dot get user data. We will invoke this function, and once we have received the data, we want to move to our actual screen, right? Once we are taken all the data from database, we want the user to see these screens. Now he should see all the activities, he should see the home page and everything, the rest of the application. So for that we need navigation. So we'll import navigation const navigation is equal to use navigation, and we want to move to the next screen once all of the data has been after 2 seconds. So I think 2 seconds or 3 seconds we can give a set timeout over here, set timeout, and we will have navigation dot navigate and giving the screen name over here home tabs, and giving I think 2 seconds will be fine. So after 2 seconds our startup screen or our navigation will move to the home tabs, to this stack over here. So let us try that out, opening our application once again. I have not imported use effect imported. There's one more thing. I need to return something over here also, type get user data. So as you can see, once we are in the, let me just start it once again. As soon as we start our application, so I'm opening my application now. So once I start my application, I'm fetching your data as a startup, and over here you can see that getting user info has been consoled over here, right? So this is working good. So in this 2 seconds we will be able to fetch the data from our database, and then during this time we will get all our runs of that particular user, and we want to push it to a previous runs array and also update a total kilometers value over here. So we will do all of this in our reducer. So we will add all of that logic. So once we have an API which is helping us to get the data from a database, we will send that data to our reducer, and they will manipulate this whole data, how we want to structure it for our application, and then it will be added to our reducer, to our Redux store. So as we have already, once it is added to our Redux store, since we have already so let me just open this. So since we have already adjusted, or we have added the capability of getting all the previous runs from the Redux in our activity screen, once it is updated over here, it will automatically show all the previous runs in our activity screen. So now let us add, first of all, let us add our API over here for getting the fetch functionality to get the particular data for the user, for a particular user, and then we will go on to the reducer function. Alright, so over here we will again make use of Redux Thunk. So for example, we will have return right, this time we'll have asynchronous, since we want to send that data to our reducer. We will have asynchronous function, so dispatch. Then we will have let response JSON. All right, and all of this will be inside of a try catch block. So if any error occurs, we can catch that. Console.error and we'll show error. So over here we want to get the response is equal to fetch. We can copy this. I think this will be fine. We'll just copy all of this. So right now we are having any very static URLs, so Nakul will obviously change in few bit. Once we will make dynamic, the users will be dynamic. Right now we are adding all the functionality, so this will change to get. A get request never has a body, so this is good. Now we will have response JSON is equal to await. Oh, this should also be awaited. Await response.json. All right, and at the end, if any error occurs, we want the response JSON to be blank. And let us copy this and push it over here. Dispatch data should be response JSON. All right, so what is happening over here is we have added an API. We are calling our API. This is the API that we are calling. We are getting the data from the database. So once we get the data, we want to convert that data to a JSON format. So we are doing that over here. And once all of that is done, we want to dispatch the data to a reducer. All right, now that we are getting our data to the reducer, we want to manipulate it in a way that we can use it for our application. All right, so now that we know that our data will come up like this, so it is an array, it is an object which has multiple objects inside of it. We want to traverse and make a logic regarding according to this data. So I've already come up with one solution. So we will get all of our data as const data is equal to actions dot data, and rest we can see the logic that I have created. I'll just paste it over here. All right, so I will just explain this. I'm creating a variable of runs and a total kilometer, putting to 0. Now over here in this for loop, I'm traversing this object which has multiple properties inside of it, and those properties are all the days that we want, right? So we want to add those days. So I will also explain one more thing why I've used. So we are traversing that. Now in our runs, that is the array that we want. This is the same array. So we are using unshift over here and not push. So that is because the latest run that we have ran comes at the end of our application. Comes at the end of the data that we are getting. But in our application, we want the latest run to be at the top, right? So I'm unshifting it. So what is happening is once I think I can explain you like this. For example, if we are getting data like 3 2 1, or you can say like 1 2 3. So 1 is the oldest run, 2 is the semi oldest, and 3 is the latest, right? This is how our data is getting sent to us. But what we want is we want the 3 to come first, then 2, then 1. Alright. So whenever we are getting the data, what we are doing is, so first you will get first this one. So we will push it like at the end. Alright, now that we have added this logic over here, and so we are up. So now I hope you have understood like why we are using unshift over push. And in this 38 line, you can see that we are adding all the total kilometers by parsing, or by adding all by first adding all the distance for that we have in our database. So we are not saving any total kilometer value in our database because I think that is not necessary. We just want we should just save all the runs. So, since all runs will have distance over here, right, in their property, when we are getting the data, we can traverse all the, since we are already traversing all the runs, so to make them capable, or to make them, to arrange them properly for our presentation in a React Native application, we can add all the total kilometers, we can add all the distance values and store it in total kilometers. Alright, so now that we have understood the logic, we just want to add all of this to our state. So state dot previous runs is equal to runs, and state dot total kilometers will be equal to total kilometer, right? This is done. We'll also just console these values, right? So I will also delete this, and now I think we are ready to test all of this. So let us go to our application. So let me just start this application once again. So getting user info, right? We have got, these are the runs that we have got. This is a total kilometer. Now if the logically, or the way we have written the code, we should have some data in our activity screen right now. So let us go to activity. Yes. So we are getting all the data from the database for a particular user, and it is getting added to our reducer. It is getting added to our yes, Redux store, and we are able to see those runs in our activity screen. Alright, this is cool. We are getting all of the data that we want. So we can see that there is some issue in the calories data and the total kilometer data. So we can check that out. Also, I just wanted to show you one more thing that I've added in the logic. So if you see over here that all of this data is generic and coming from our data, but there is one more thing, that is ID over here. So each run that we want should contain an ID. So if you remember in our pause screen, so I will just open a pause screen, we had added this unique ID for each run, so that we can traverse them in our activity screen easily. So since each run should have a particular ID, right, we are added in that in a pause screen. But since Firebase adds a particular ID for each run, for each data that we add, we can make use of this rather than creating an ID of our own, right? So I've done exactly like that once. So I've added this same ID as our ID for each run. So if you see the data over here, you can see that there is ID with the same value as the ID given over here, right? So we can change that in our pause screen also, since we don't want any ID like this. So I will just remove this from here, right? And also from here, cool. So removing ID from here, and in our save run, so going to our actions, right? So over here, we don't want to console it every time. Alright, so we are getting, so we can change this to, so we are getting data like this, right? So we can add a property of data ID over here. So we can do it like data dot ID is equal to result. I think, let me just check. Just post something. Posting. Yeah, that is, it is a name property, right? Data.id is equal to result.name. Let us see if this works. I hope this works. Let us make it asynchronous. It will be much better. Making it asynchronous, like we had done it before. Cons response is equal to await fetch. Removing all of this. Then having cons response JSON is equal to await response dot json function. Yeah, and let us just console this for a moment and see how we are getting the data. Most probably we'll get the data like this only, but just in case, and also go back to this. Yeah. So saving a run over here, pause and save. Something happened. Yeah, so I can just refresh. Something broke for some reason. Let me just check that. Oh yeah, I see something. Yeah. So let me just remove Nakul completely. Yeah, so starting this again. Activity should close this. So what had happened is that the data that we have added over here was not accurate to the data that we want in our activity screen. So that is why it was giving some errors to us. But this case will not happen in future, because you can't add data to our database from any random URL. We will make our URL secret so that no one can add data. So start, pause, and save. Yeah, so we are getting a value of name, right? So we need this value and add it as an ID in our pause screen. In our this in this data. So removing this. Okay, so in our actions we want data.id is equal to, I will just add some comments, adding Firebase ID to data. So this will be data.id is equal to response.json.name. I think this should work. Let us see. I will just refresh. So we have ID like this. This is looking good. Yeah, getting our data. Start, pause. I think this worked. Yeah, I think it worked. Yep, this looks good. Yeah, our latest run is at the top. So now that we have done that, we want to configure our calories and the total kilometer run. So let us check that out. So I will also show one thing. So we have done the first thing, saving our current run, saving run to DB, fetching all previous runs, update ID of the run has been done. Now we want to get the total kilometer run from the Redux store. So currently what is happening is, if you see over here, we are giving total kilometer ran every time in each run. We don't want this, so we can remove this altogether. We can give this value as integer. So pause screen is done, main navigation is done, startup is done. So going into our activity screen, yeah, over here. Now we want to go into a summary screen. Yeah, we want to get the total kilometer ran from a Redux store, right? So we can do this by using use selector. So const use selector, I'm just going to copy this. So adding comment over here, getting total kilometers ran from Redux, changing the values total kilometer, let us give it over here only, and state dot, that is in total kilometers. I think this should work. Let me just refresh this. Fetching your data, activity, NAN for some reason. Let me just console dot log this total kilometer ran. Yeah, use selector has not been imported. Yeah, this is looking good. So as you can see, we have added we have got total kilometers from our reducer. So the initial value is 0, but this will not be 0 all the time, because we are parsing and adding distance from a database. right? So it is showing the correct values that we have 0, we have not run anything, and we are at the bottom level. So if we go ahead and see the where we have added these, so calculation page. Let me see where we have added this. The levels, where are the levels? Yeah, this is levels dummy data, right? So we can remove all of this data right over here. We don't want this, right? So at level 0 it should be blue, and at level 2 it should be pink, then level 3 should be green, and level 4 should be orange, right? So this is cool. So if we can, I think if we just change few values over here, so let us give it 100 to see if our value is coming right or not. So giving 150 over here and giving 100 over here, or 101, right? Damn, too much running in one run only. So let us just refresh this. So we are getting total kilometers ran as 251. So let us see. Yeah, this is cool, right? We're getting the pink color, and we are getting the, like you have ran 101 kilometer on this day, right? And you have ran 150 kilometers on this particular day, and total kilometers you have ran is 251. So you're orange, so you're on pink level, right? This is good. So our application is working fine, and we have made it quite dynamic now. So let us remove this task since we have done all of this. All right, so more or less our application is ready and good to go. I think most of the things are ready. So we can change this to levels, I think. I hope nothing breaks. Yeah, this broke. I will just refresh and remove the console.logs from various places. So let us see. We didn't get any run. Where is that? Getting user info. Right, so we'll get our runs over here. So you can also see we are getting 101 kilometer over here, 150 kilometer also. Let us start a run and pause this and save it. So we have 0 and yeah. I forgot one more thing, is so when we are saving a run, right, at that point we are not adding the total kilometers. We are only calculating the total kilometer whenever we are getting the data. But for example, so right now since I saved this run, and maybe I had values, for example 1 kilometer over here, but that kilometer will not be added to the total kilometers unless and until I start my run again, right? So I want to make one more, for example, one more updation to this, that will be when I'm unshifting that particular data to the previous runs, I also want to add the total kilometers with the distance I have traveled during my current run. I hope you got what I'm trying to say. For example, what is happening right now is when I'm getting my data from the user, right? When I'm getting the data from the database, I'm calculating all the total kilometers, I'm summing it up with the distance that have occurred in the previous runs. But when I am saving my run while using the application, so when I am doing this and saving the run, it is only adding this particular run to the previous run array, but it is not updating the total kilometers I have ran. So I should also update that. So we can do this by very simply by using this thing only, total kilometers, and inside of this you will have actions. So total kilometers, let us put like let total kilometers. So we can do this like state dot total kilometers, and we need actions, and over here should be distance. Oh, it is. Yep. So let me just do one more thing so that we can see this. Okay, so I will just go to my pause screen and add some dummy data over there. Dummy. Yeah, so I will add distance over here just to see like it is working fine or not. We will add it like 10. Yeah, so let's just give it 10 right now. Save, and I'm saving this run. So you can see we have 10 kilometers over here. Oh, I need to refresh also. Oh. Yeah, I need to remove total. Let me just refresh once again. Getting user info. Then we will start the run. Pause it. Save this particular run. So if you see that we had 199, I think, one last time around. So we have many values now. So we have 150 over. So yeah, it is updated now. Yeah, so if you see that we had 150 kilometers over here, then 101, that is 251. Then we have 10 kilometers that we had done before we were trying this out, so that is 261. Now the latest one that we have added to our application is 10 kilometers again, so that has given us 271, right? So this is quite accurate and working fine now. So let us change this back and remove this again. So I think our application is working fine now. All of this is working fine. If you see anything that we need to adjust, let me know in the comments. We have calorie. So I think there is one, we need to fix this calories one. So I think we are not adding that value over here. Where is calories? Calories. Okay, summary card, not activity card. In summary, we have calories. Yeah, so we have props.cal. For some reason it does not have any value. Why is that? Oh yeah, so I think I need to give it 0 over here. Not sure. So cal is undefined. I see. Total kilometer run is undefined. Okay, so we need to change few things. So activity, so we don't want 12 kilometer ran, and we're getting item as cal, not calories now, right? Since let me just check. Yeah, it is cal. That is why it is showing undefined. I think it should work now. Let me just refresh the application. Just so we don't have this anymore. Going to activity 12 kilometer. Yeah, we are getting the values of calories also now. This is good. Let me just save a new run. Yeah, we are getting the values correctly now. Alright guys, so now that we have created an application around a fixed user or API point, that is knuckle.json, a single user, we want to make this application more dynamic by making it available for each user and having data for that particular user differently. So for that we will have to make changes to the startup page. So I'm going to make a very basic sign in code, because I don't want to go deep into this thing right now, because our main application has been done. It is only just that we want different data to be shown for different users, right? So starting with this, first of all, let us just comment all of this, and over here we will have a state for loading. Use state, it is loading, starting it is false, and over here we will have inside of this loading, you will understand what I'm doing in just a few seconds. And removing this and over here we will have a sign in part. So we have a text for sign in with your name, sign in with your name. We will have a text input, right? And I want all of this in one only, not in different ones. I don't know why they do this again and again. Yeah. All right, and view. Yeah, I don't want a view. Text input. This should have a value as name. So we create a new state for name. Use state name. Set name for at the start is null, and on change text we will have text and set name as text, right? And the last thing will be a button. So we'll have a pressable, pressable, yeah. This will have a text of submit, and on press we will have a function for submit handler. All right, so let us create a function con submit handler. right? And inside of this you will have all of these values. Cool. And we want to submit only when the name has been given, any name. Actually, I'm not making any validation requirements right now for this. Any name suffice over this. So if it is null, then we need something else. It is fine. So if it is null, then show a toast Android message like enter a name, and it should be toast Android dot small short. Yeah. And when we are submitting, we want the loading to be true so that we can get this part. So what I'm doing over here is we have a state for loading. At the start is false, right? So it will directly show us this part of the code, like sign in with your name and the text input and button. Once we have added the name and we press submit, we will get our activity indicator that I had shown you earlier and a fetching your data message on the screen. So whenever we are past this thing, and I will just return this also because we don't want to go any further. So once we are past this if condition, we want to set loading to be true. Also, we want the navigation to be resetted, not navigate, because we don't want the user, once he has gone inside of the application to all of these screens, we don't want the user to come back. We want him to be like, you're gone now, you can't log in or enter a new name again. So we will use reset. Inside of this we will have index to be 0, and routes as an array, and name home tabs, right? Yeah, home tabs. All right, our submit handler is fine. Let us give some styling also to these values. So I will just copy these values because I don't want to spend much time on this. Since we have understood how styling works, I'll just copy paste all of this. Text also, I will explain you everything at the end once I paste of everything. Style for text input and style for pressable and style for the text. Alright, it is very basic styling, so let me just refresh the application once. Something broke. Yeah, use state has not been added. Let us add that. Right, so this is the UI that I've created. So we are getting the style over here of sign in with your name. Then that is the text input of font width bold, like you can see like that. Border bottom width, margin bottom, align cells. This is very basic stylings. And for the pressable button, we have background color as orange, border radius, width, align item center. You can customize this as you want, right? So going forward, we will have to send. So since we are taking the username, I will just remove this. And why is use state? It's funny. Not sure. Yeah, it is working. So I will just add some comments over here. First page of the application, first screen. not page, first screen of the application to sign in the user. Alright, cool. So now we want to send the username that we have got from the user and send it to the get user data action. So over here we want to make use of that, right? So if we want to make use of this over here in our URL, so we can change this to plus name plus plus dot JSON, and we will add it over here also in our dispatch so that we can update, and we will create a one more property in our reducer state, that is username. At the start it will be blank, right? So we will have it over here as username. Username will be name. All right, so I think more or less get user data is done. So what we are doing is we are sending the name that we have got from the user, like over here, that is, I'll just I'll just give a better name like Ron, or let us go with Ron, and so this name will go to our get user data. Over here we are using that over here in a URL, right? And then once this request is done, we will go ahead with we will send this name as username to our reducer. In our reducer we need to update the state of dot username to actions dot user name, right? Now once this is done, we also want to use this same user's name in a post request also, right? So we can do this by making use of Redux Thunk. So if you remember, like we were making use of Redux Thunk for sending asynchronous values, asynchronous calls to our database. We can also make use of our reducer state inside of this function. This is also a function that is running from line 1234. So we can make use of our reducer state inside of our actions page. We can do that by typing get data, making it get data, and over here we'll have get data function dot username, and removing this. Yep. So in this way we'll be by get data function, like we call this and console.log this part only, we will be able to see the whole state of our reducer. And but if you call dot username, we will be able to see only this. We will be able to use this value. So this is working. I think this should work fine now. Let us test this out. Also, I just remembered one more thing. Like if I have entered values like, so if I've entered values like Ron plus space something space, I want to reduce any space that is coming, because a name should not have any spaces. I only want one name with no spaces. So I will add a regex over here to remove any space that comes up inside of the name, right? So let us see how we can do that. Alright guys, so I have found out a regex for removing any spaces that comes up whenever a person is entering a name. So it will remove any spaces, do not allow it. Also, if the user feels like why I'm not able to enter any space, he can see that there's an asterisk over here that I've added over name, and I've also added a name should not contain any space message also. So in the code what I've done is, so I've added just an asterisk over here and created a, you can add view also. So I've added this text at the very bottom of the whole page. That name should not contain any space, right? So I think this is good. Now let us start and test this out. So I will go ahead with uh, James. I think James looks good. Submit, fetching your data. All right, so we are inside. So there is no activity over here. Let us press start and also open our Firebase. Remove the previous data. All right, pause, and I will just save this. All right, so as you just saw that as soon as I save the run, a user called James has been created and his values are showing over in our database. If I go back and I close the application and I enter James again, James, we should see this one run in our activity. Let us see. Yeah, so we are able to see one activity run over here. So this is good. Let us try to save one more. Yeah, so we are able to see in our database also, and also in our activities over here. Also, you can do one more thing, like this is done, like this is working perfectly as we wanted, right? So this is looking good. I just wanted to add one more thing that will be the last thing of this whole application, I think. So this is done. You can check this out. So let us add knuckle, right? And in our activity, so in our activity, when a person is when it is a new user, so the activity screen looks empty. It somewhat feels like something has not rendered over here, right? So I think we should have a message over here if the data, if there is no value inside of the data, so it is empty, so we should have a message for the user for that. So I think it should be something like there is no run, or let us start running, like no run found, let us start running, something like that, so that it doesn't look empty so much. So let us do that. All right guys, so I have found out a way, like how we can add like no activity found, let us start running message. So in our activity screen only, I've added, like we had added over here in our startup screen, that loading condition. Yeah, I will just close all of that. Yeah, so in our activity screen, uh, in, before this we had something like only this flat list we had, right? Now I've added a condition, like if the data dot length is equal to 0, right? We will have we will have this message. So we will have a view and a text. So the view will have these stylings and the text will have these stylings. So this is some very basic styling, so I don't want to push these into any style sheet or in a different page. And if the data dot length is not equal to 0, so we will have the whole flat list. So let us try this out. So let us open an existing user, that is James, like we have James, right? So James, submit. So we should see the basic page like we had before, right? And let us close this and open knuckle now. Knuckle, submit. And once in activity there is no activity found, let us start a run, pause it and save. We have one activity. Let us close this now and see once again. So I will have knuckle, In activity, we are seeing our activity now. So I think this looks good. We have I think the whole application is done now, right? So opening Jeans. So we have a login sign in screen. We can see the Google Maps API also working fine. The start and the time functionality we have given. We can see all the previous activities of our that we have done using this application. The start button showing us the running screen, like how many kilometers and how many pace with which how much pace that you are running. The progress bar is also over here. Then we can pause this by pressing this pause button. So we then move to the pause screen. Here we can see the kilometer time, pace and calories, and also the progress bar with which we are running and how much we have done. By this orange button we can resume back our run, and by this stop button we can press this for 5 seconds and it will save our run to our application. So as you saw, like as soon as I saved the run, our database was also updated. And this is the summary screen where we can see the summary of that particular run. Over here we can see the levels with how much levels that we have done, or on which level we are of the running. And in our activity screen we can see the various activities and see the summary of it also. I think we are good to go and deploy this application now. I hope you guys liked it, and this was the first project of this channel, and we will be making many more. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, then do hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to see more of this content. And if you think I can improve in any way, do tell me in the comments below, and do share these videos with your friends and peers who are the developers and are trying to make production level application using React Native. I'm trying to create as much content as I can every week, and I hope you find this useful. All of the applications that we are creating has been posted to the GitHub repository of this channel. I will just showcase that to you. So this is the GitHub repository that I've made for this channel, and the community name that I have given to us, to you people like you and me, are React Natives. If you think this name is quite good, then please let me know in the comments below. And if you think we can give much better name, also tell me that.